All right, we'll call this meeting of the East Hartford Town Council to order. By state law, I have to notify people of the exit locations. There are 3 doors leaving this chamber with the exit signs over them. When you go through those doors, you then proceed and go down 1 flight of stairs. When you get to the bottom of those stairs, you have 2 options. The first is to go straight through the atrium and out the main entrance to Town Hall. The second is to go down another flight of stairs and take a right, and you will exit Town Hall on the side that's closest to Fire Station number 1. Now, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right, we begin the meeting by calling up Pat Sorois of our Beautification Commission. We have an award to be presented, as the Commission has been doing for many, many years, to recognize town properties where the people have really put an extra effort into beautifying their property. So at this point, I will turn it over to Pat, and welcome.
Welcome. We haven't done this in quite a few years. We just didn't have a full commission, and it was hard to drive around and see properties. But this year, we wanted to start it again. We found a lovely property on Park Avenue, of all places, 320 Park Avenue. One of our commissioners had suggested it, and you know, there's all these homes that aren't taken care of, but this house is just absolutely lovely. And she said that when she drives by, they're always out front doing, taking care of the yard. And I was down that area today. I did an interview over at Uncle Crumbles. There's a big, they make granola. I never even knew they were around.
The old bakery on there.
Yep.
Yeah, and they sell to all over the United States. So we should be, I'm going to give a shout out to Uncle Crumbles. And they gave me a big bag of it, and it's absolutely delicious. We can get it at our local ShopRite and Stop and Shop and Big Y. So I just want to give a shout out to them because they were lovely.
Great.
They're lovely people. But anyway, to get back to Park Avenue, I would like to call up the Clara family, and they live at 320 Park Avenue, and it's really worth going down there and seeing their beautiful property.
Okay, yes, they are.
And we'd like to present this to you. And thank you so much for making East Hartford a beautiful place to live.
I know you. Yeah. I've been to your property.
Yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
You
Very
have.
nice.
Actually, my brother is he's a contractor in town.
Oh,
Very
okay.
excited, you know,
Yeah, that's what brought me over. So yeah, no, you got a really
Beautiful.
beautiful property, and
Isn't
you
it?
were.
He's all thanks for her, you know.
All right,
That's what he
yeah,
said when I was talking
the right
to
thing
him.
to say, right?
Because
So she's very busy. You just give her the credit card to buy the flowers.
That's the important part, though.
Well, thank you very much for making Park Avenue a beautiful place to live.
No, I appreciate the time that, you know, you guys, kind of that you take drive around town. There's a lot of properties that they,
Mhm.
you know, a lot of people don't have funds or whatnot.
Right,
They're
right.
older and stuff like that. But we used to live on 59 Miles Ave.
Uh-huh.
Beautiful our home. When we lived 5 years in Hartford, and short story, it was an empty home when I first purchased it. Some people were doing mechanics on the second floor. Can you imagine?
In the second floor?
And the second floor. That was back in 2015. We lived that home for 5 years because we had a business out right on the street. And when we left in 2020, that was the best beautiful house
See,
I believe
you're
it.
spreading your beauty.
So,
Yeah.
we like to live good, you know, clean.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know, it sometimes just take it clean.
Mm-hmm, yep, yep.
yeah.
Take care.
Well, these are the kind of people we want to give an award to, because we want to thank you for making East Hartford a
And I love you,
beautiful.
I came in, I'm from El Salvador originally.
Uh-huh.
In 1997, and I made this home, and I came to Park Avenue, 388 Park Avenue, those apartment complexes right after.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I
Yep.
moved there, and I made I call it my second home.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
ever since I did not move, you know, I got family in Texas, and I was so close to move to Texas when I first divorced myself, but I said, no, I called Connecticut, you know.
Yep.
I love this place,
That's right.
you know.
Well, we're happy to have
And
you.
I think I'm not gonna move. When I retire, I'm just gonna go back home, you know.
There you go, you got it.
There we go.
So for now, I still call them, East Hartford.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
And we'll be back next month to give another award out. We got a special one, a
Good.
Community Pride Award, so, okay.
Excellent, great. We'll see you then. Just remember, July is the one meeting month. It's 14th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. July 14th, is that Bastille Day? Yes, right? Okay. Just saying. We'll now move to opportunity for residents to address the council on agenda items. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on agenda items? Sure, come on up. You can just, you can either sit or stand. It doesn't matter which. You can either stand in front of the podium, or you can sit down right next to the mayor, whatever makes you more comfortable.
No, I'm sure.
If
Good evening, everybody.
you can just for the record state your name and address
Sure.
of it.
I was getting ready to thank you. My name is Jabril Wilson. I'm a resident at 38 Carroll Road here in East Hartford. I wanted to bring to your attention our little quiet street has an uptick in excessive speeding down our street. We have roughly 4 houses that have small children that ride their bikes, their scooters. We have people who walk their dogs, people that just want to take in a nice walk. Friday, and these are my, just to hand these out real quickly. These are my points of concern. Friday night, this past Friday night, at 4:40, I got home from work. I work for the state of Connecticut. I got home from work at 4:30, maybe 4:34. Went upstairs. My partner that shares my home with me, he was asleep, had the AC on. It was hot. I heard a boom. I said, what was that? I'm changing my clothes. I looked outside and I didn't see anything. And shortly after, one of my neighbors, she's running frantically to my door. And I said, oh, crap. And I went to my partner. I said, babe, they done hit your car. So we went outside. And sure enough, this is the damages. They plowed into his car, which was parked in front of our house. Most of us here, a good portion of us on Carroll Road, which I love, and just a sidebar note, we are a wonderful neighborhood. We are a multicultural neighborhood. We get along real well. We are nosy when we need to be. And a lot of us have homes, cameras on our homes. So unfortunately, my home and the girl next door and the guy across the street, we caught the beginning and the end. But our other neighbor that lives next door, he caught it in its entirety. My neighbors was very upset. They jumped in their cars to see if they can catch the guy. But they couldn't because they thought it was one car. But it was one car that stopped to see, gosh, did this guy do it? and it was actually another car. My partner's car got hit by a black Suburban. And according to the footage, if you look at the footage, which I have on my phone, but at any rate, he didn't swerve. Like when you drive down the street, you stop, make sure you got clearance, and you swerve around. He plowed into his car. So heaven forbid, if he got off the car, he probably would have died. So we notified the police. They came, gave us a case number. I didn't feel comfortable with him leaving the car there. And I said, could you please put the car in the driveway? He said it might cause some damage. I said, listen, I'm not feeling it. My spirit just didn't feel well. So he pulled it in the driveway. The police came the following day so we could show them the footage. That was that. Saturday night, everybody's home relaxing, watching the Knicks game. Go Knicks. Second quarter, we heard scourge boom. I said, gosh, whose car got hit now? The lady that lives next door to me at 32 Carroll Road, she had company. Her company's truck got hit. He drives a Sierra, GMC Sierra, with big wheels. That's like a big monster truck. Broke his axle. So that tells you he had to be going fast to break this man's axle. So once again, they got in the car. They going to look for him. And they found him as he was crossing over the Bulkley Bridge, getting off on exit 50 Morgan Street. And they cornered him and said, hey, he said, did I hit something? It's like, dude, look at your car. They got all the necessary information, and they brought it back. The same cop that was reported for us, he came back, and he was in disbelief. He said, I need to stay here. I said, yeah, we need a substation. We laughed about it. But my point is, there was another family member that I was made aware of a year ago, and their car got hit, and it was a hit and run. That's 3 cars in 1 year, and that's very unacceptable. Granted, cars can be replaced. Lives can't. Summer has not started yet. We got our summer vacation on the horizon, where I no longer have small kids. I love kids like most people do. I don't want to see that. So I'm just bringing this to your attention. We as the residents on Carroll Road, the neighborhood of Carroll Road, and the residents of East Hartford, we're pleading to you guys. Something needs to happen before something bad happens. And that's pretty much, I mean, I have a bullets, as you can see, but that main thing was the speeding. And there's many times we hear it. They use our street as a shortcut. They don't want to deal with the congestion with Connecticut Boulevard and Main Street. So they'll hook the right on Prospect. And as you know, Prospect will bring around the Carroll Road. So by the time they get to Miss Jeanette's house, where she lives at that end, and get to my house, they're pushing 55 miles an hour, like they're flooring it. And I'm saying, where you going? We have the nursing home there on the corner. Sometimes we have, you see the client crossing the street, going for what? That's freaking me out. That's freaking all of us out. To the point we're so on edge. None of our cars are on the street. I just want you to know. A street sweeper could come and just have a good time. We're frightened to leave our cars on the street. And that's not fair. So that's what I wanted to say. I could go on and on about it, but that's our plea. And I hope you guys take it in consideration, because it is a high priority. We need safety for ourselves, but we need safety for our babies. And that's what I'm concerned about. Thank you guys for listening.
Okay, no, thank you. Sorry for all of those issues that you've had recently, but obviously the speeding is something that hasn't just occurred, you know, in the last month. So we'll certainly take a look at what options might be available, and then, you know, with the administration, we'll work on, you know, having some discussion with the neighbors, you know, so that whatever, you know, options are available, you can, you know, they'll affect you in one way or another. So obviously we want to make sure that you're all on board.
Yeah, and I just want to add, so myself and the police chief were aware as of today, due to Counselor Sagai, who I believe you guys had talked to, that notified us right away of these incidents. It is quite incredible that 2 days in a row a car would get hit by someone speeding down the road. And it's not a very big road at all, which is incredible that people would even be trying to get up to those speeds. So it is absolutely on our radar. Definitely apologize you guys have to deal with this. But let us put our heads together and see what we can do. I see you have a recommendation here of adding some additional lighting to make maybe the car is more visible. But we're going to do everything we can. You know, the unfortunate part of some of the speeding occurring in town is no matter what we do, there are people out there who just don't care about their safety, your safety, right? They're in a rush to get who knows where. But that's not an excuse to not try and figure out what we can do. So I appreciate you bringing this up to me. Like I said, Councilor Sagai, as soon as you guys have brought it up to him, did bring it to our attention. So I'll continue to work with the police chief, and I'll share what you've sent to us today. We may very well be reaching out to you guys as well to see what we can do together as a neighborhood. So, yeah, thank you.
All right. Anyone else wish to speak? If not, Honor?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good evening, members of the council and members of the public who are with us today. I do have quite a bit of development updates for you guys, but I want to start with giving you guys a recap or a snapshot of our after-action report for this year's warming center. So we had a successful year. As you guys know, we did change locations basically across the street to 87 Church Street, where our soup kitchen is also located. We were able this year to increase our capacity to 40 members at any time in our warming center. That is up from 25 last year. The warming center is still run by Journey Home, contracted to Keys of the Gate, who runs the day-to-day operations. Just to give you an idea of how much it costs to run a warming center, using state funds, this year's warming center cost us $234,000. And so that is just for one season from December 1st to April 4th of 2026. So in addition to housing folks who want to stay warm or who are unhoused, we were also able to offer a bunch of other services to residents or non-residents who attended the warming center. This included helping folks obtain an ID or other forms of identification, helping individuals find permanent shelter beds, linking individuals to employment opportunities, matching individuals to housing opportunities, helping individuals get admitted to detox or rehab programs, helping individuals get engaged in mental health services, helping enroll individuals in GED or higher education programming, helping individuals enroll in SNAP or medical benefits, and also helping individuals apply for Social Security benefits. So a host of other services we were able to provide residents in need as they attended our warming center. Overall, we had 292 unique individuals who were served by the East Hartford Warming Center. Of those 292, 45 were reported as being East Hartford residents, which is about 15%, and 124 were reported as being Hartford residents. Of the 292, the remaining were from Manchester, New Britain, West Hartford, Bristol, Wethersfield, Windsor, Meriden, and New Haven. Just to kind of give you a snapshot of what our response was like to the warming center. So we had a total number of calls to the East Hartford Police Department of 97. Of those 97 calls, only 47 garnered a response. For the East Hartford Fire Department, we had about 36 calls, with 32 of those being medical and 4 being non-medical. And we saw kind of the typical things you see with folks who might be going through some hard situations. We'd had folks show up intoxicated, folks show up with numb limbs who were suffering from hypothermia. We also had a lot of folks attend who were suffering from some sort of mental health disorder. And just to kind of put that in a snapshot, our East Hartford Police Department receives about 28,000 calls per year. So this equates to about 0.35% of those calls to the warming center. But like I said, most of it was folks who were just kind of going through a tough time. We do have some demographic data, too, that I'd like to share with you guys. Of the total population that attended our warming center, majority of the folks were between the age of 35 and 44. We saw mostly males attend. We had about 158 males versus 86 females, and about 38 people who decided not to provide that information. In terms of the conditions in which these folks were coming in, we saw a large number of folks who were suffering from a mental health disorder, alcohol use disorder, drug disorder, as well as some chronic health conditions or physical disability. So we are getting folks who are, in real need of this sort of shelter to be able to stay out of the elements during the tough winter that we just had. So that's just a quick snapshot of what we saw this year. Like I said, it was a successful year, and bringing the service back to the town of East Hartford. And as you can see with the folks who are using our warming center, I would say we are doing our best to try to meet the need out in the East Hartford community. So happy to take any questions on that before I go to development updates.
Okay. Any questions on the update? Go ahead, Don.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Truly incredible work. In terms of funding, you mentioned that it was state funding. What's the plan for next year?
Say it again.
What's the plan for next year?
Yep. So the plan has always been to find a sleeping model location, but the building that we want to house a sleeping model in has to have a sprinkler system and other life safety systems. Unfortunately, we have been unlucky in finding that, so we have been able to pursue a sit-down model where folks can still come in. You know, we have to try to keep you awake. I know that's quite hard, you know, from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., but it's an opportunity to get warm, charge your phone, get a cup of coffee or some snacks. So the greater goal is to find a more permanent location that allows for a sleeping model. So that's our first thing, is to start or to continue to look for that location. We have already started the planning. It is a part of the community risk reduction framework, the collaborative framework to bring everybody together who would have a role in a warming center. So that planning has started. We will continue to work with Journey Home and Keys to the Gate, who have been very successful in acquiring state funding. I actually had a great run-in with them at a mutual event where they were very pleased working with East Hartford and will continue to be our sponsor, so to speak, of our warming center. We have also had conversations with Senator Anwar, who you know has been, I would say, going around the state really pushing for solutions for the homelessness here in Connecticut. We have flat out told him that, you know, this is truly a statewide problem. As you can see, we have more residents from other towns than we do from our own, and that's very true for Hartford, who has most beds in the state. They do take a lot of East Hartford residents, but they also take a ton of residents from other municipalities in the state. And so I think it would require, at least financially, the support of the state. As you guys know, $234,000 is not something we have laying around in order to support a warming center, so we're fortunate to have a sponsor like Journey Home. If in the event they were going to be unsuccessful in getting funding from the state, we would either need to find the funding somewhere, which is unlikely, or unfortunately not be able to offer that service to residents again, which I would hope never has to happen. So.
All right, and then just to follow up, of the people who are served, how many are children?
Let's see if I have that. So we don't have anyone younger than 18. We had about 15 individuals who were between the ages of 18 and 24. We didn't get anybody younger than that. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
All right.
Just a comment, which is that it just strikes me that this warming center, truthfully, is not much different than what we used to have. I think we still do, with basically shelters, right? The homeless shelters, which, you know, that model of sort of just temporarily giving them some place to, you know, sleep, is not addressing the underlying issues, which is why they, having the services that are connected with this are so important. So it does seem to me that if we're going to be looking at funding a more permanent warming center, I think it would be just as easy to say we're going to fund a basically transitional housing, because that's really the model that actually gets to the root of the issues here. And maybe just looking along those lines might be more, bring more resources than looking for a temporary warming center that is not always used.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I was happy to see those services. I didn't actually know that until this report. But I think it, once again, fits in the East Hartford's model of full circle, you know, full service town. So I agree with you. You know, we don't just want to house people. We want them to end up in a better situation. And it'd be great if we don't see the same people every year at our warming center, right? Which hopefully means that they have gone on to bigger and better things. So I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So I'll just skip over now to our development projects, and I'll try to move quickly. So as you guys attended, we had our first major groundbreaking, the Simon Conover 150 apartments. Thank you to those who attended. Construction is underway. You guys may have also noticed that 363 Robert Street Hotel is now complete, and people are actually occupying rooms. So we are scheduling a ribbon cutting for that property as well, sometime in the month of July. He does have his TCO, should be getting his CO any day now, and then we'll have a ribbon cutting to kind of celebrate the grand opening of that hotel, which has been a long time coming. As it relates to McCartan School, the conceptual design is complete. We're able to design out and fit about 19 single-family homes. The goal still being to bring bigger lots and bigger homes there so that when you start here, you can stay here and grow here in East Hartford. So that's really a really great update because I'm happy, looking forward to seeing the design. We also did get our zoning amendment approved by PZC to adjust some of the lot boundaries to allow for these bigger homes as well, and for the 19 homes on that site. As it relates to Port East Side, demolition of 99 Founders Plaza is pretty much done, I think. Maybe there's like one more piece of steel up, but that demolition is just about complete. They will start the cleaning of the site thereafter. We did receive $6 million, as you guys know, from CIF. You guys did approve another $9 million to CIF that we will have to wait and see if that gets approved. The round 9 did close June 5th, so our submission is in. Just recently, last week, the town did receive what I would probably call the most fleshed out vision, as well as some financial data to support the TIF district that we will eventually, or the developer will eventually be proposing to the town council. So this is good. This is probably the most amount of data and I would say visioning out of this, this vision that we have received to date. So stay tuned for more information on that, but we will continue to clean up the site and pursue money for 111 Founders. Those are intense. Yeah, a little easy on those. As it relates to Church Corners Inn, as I mentioned to you guys a couple meetings ago, we chose to spend down the remaining CIF money of $800,000. That is for interior hazardous waste abatement. We are in the process of preparing that bid with a goal of July 1st to bid out that abatement and start that pre-development work. Or I guess I would call that development work. What is currently under construction in East Hartford right now is the Noble gas station at the corner of Prospect and Governor, Simon Conover, as I mentioned, Five Guys and Wingstop on Silver Lane, and a 30-unit apartment building with ground floor retail across from Dunkin' Donuts on Silver Lane as well. So we've got 4 major projects that are under construction. As it relates to Bissell Street in Main Street, so as I mentioned, we did get our estimate from Eversource. DPW right now is coordinating with Frontier and Verizon, who are also on the poles, to bury their power lines as well. So we are working with them, and we are kind of on their schedule to get that work, or get an estimate to us to be able to support getting their lines buried into the conduit that Eversource is going to install on the ground. We also had a very positive meeting with DOT, but I got to be honest, what you're telling me today about Carroll Road might change what we do. So if you guys remember, at least anyone who's attended the State of the Town address, we have been trying to figure out ways and working with DOT to really slow down the traffic on Main Street. You know, our Main Street is our heart of our downtown, right? It's the heart of our community. We want to make it more pedestrian friendly. We want people shopping and dining, and we want to bring those businesses that people want to spend their money for. But as you guys know very well, Main Street acts like a highway, and we've got tractor trailers that are flying down and obviously flying down our very small, our other roads. And so we've made a number of efforts to try to curb, I'll call it bad driving behavior here in town, whether it's exploring roundabouts coming to town or even traffic cameras, speed cameras, red light cameras, stop sign cameras, all on Main Street as well. And so we had originally pitched to DOT as a part of their Greater Hartford Mobility improvements 4 roundabout locations on Main Street. We just met with them last week as they took our concept and really tested it to see, well, what impact would 4 roundabouts on Main Street have to the surrounding neighborhoods? Carroll, Prospect, you know, on the other side of it, Elm, Central Ave. And what we determined is that 4 is excessive, right? And that although they would be very effective in slowing down traffic on Main Street, it would likely drive everybody to the side streets or to Prospect to skirt that. So your coming here is absolutely timely. And so we have instead, or what they have presented us and said, are two roundabouts, one at Pitkin and one at Burnside Ave. And then at the intersection of Prospect and Main, as well as Connecticut Boulevard and Main, more of a raised intersection sort of deal, while also narrowing down the lanes. They would still maintain 2 lanes on each side with a new center island buffer with aesthetically pleasing plantings, bump outs, new green space, opportunity for bike lanes, a bigger pedestrian walkway on the east side of the road. And so we had a good meeting with them. Like I said, the elimination of 2 roundabouts was because of the worry of sending traffic into the neighborhoods. And I think there's a degree of wanting to lessen the volume of traffic on Main Street to a more focused traffic on Main Street. Folks who actually want to be on Main Street, want to shop there, want to attend the events at the Town Green. Right now, I think people primarily use our Main Street to get north and south through town, not necessarily to enjoy Main Street or, even see what Main Street has. So it's a balancing act with DOT to figure out how we can both curb the bad driving behavior, make Main Street more pedestrian-friendly, but also not cause undue impact into our neighborhood. So I actually do want to share with DOT what you guys have shared with me today, just so they're aware and they can hear from folks who live in the neighborhoods on what you're already experiencing, so that we don't make the issue you're already having worse, because I do worry with roundabouts on Main Street and intentionally trying to slow down the traffic, people are going to start avoiding Main Street. Where do they go after that? Could be the problem. So it's a balancing act. It's something we've got to try to solve. But we did have a positive meeting with DOT, who seems to be taking this very seriously and has given it a lot of attention and effort to come up with a concept that's going to work very well for us. What we're going to do next with Main Street is have a public workshop meeting, and this is where I would definitely encourage you guys to stay tuned on our social media and our website, where we're going to promote this workshop so you can come and see the improvements that are being suggested for Main Street, and DOT and the administration can hear from you guys directly on how this will or won't impact your neighborhood. So our next step before anything is approved or anything is constructed is to have that public workshop meeting so that we can hear from the public on what we're doing. So that's just an update on things going on Main Street. I do want to thank Jason Rojas in the governor's office. Through working with them, we were successful in getting $1 million in Urban Act grants for Bicentennial Park. That is the start of our Veterans Memorial Park vision here at the park. I actually want to pass this around to you. If you guys remember, Bicentennial was a part of the brownfield study around the Church Street area. And so through the work of Colliers, we did come up with a few designs. The design that I am passing around to you guys was the final design, also approved by the Veterans Commission. It is in the amount of about $2.9 million. So this $1 million starts to get us to that budget to bring the project to fruition, I would say. So happy to hear about that. Before I go on to Concourse, what I'm going to say for last, I do want to share with you guys, but I'm not going to tell you who it is. We do have a grocery chain that is interested in moving into the Walgreens right across from Phillip Farms, which is really great. But I'm not going to get my hopes too far up until I meet them, have conversations with them, and see how serious they are. But we do have an inquiry from a grocery chain who is looking to move into that spot. So I know the community has been asking for a grocery store, and we will continue to do our best to get one there. All right, as it relates to Concourse Park. So the project continues on. I believe you guys have been versed. So as of Friday, which was June 12th, which was exactly a year from when we sold them the property, per our development agreement, was to be the commencement date for construction. Obviously, construction did not start on June 12th, and so our development agreement has given us a few options. One option is to terminate the tax agreement, which at that point would make the project totally infeasible. It also allows us to facilitate either the sale or the bringing in of a new developer to be able to keep the project going or revision the project. What it does not include is a reverter clause that gets us the property back should the project fail. And so at this point, we do not own the property, as you guys know. The developer themselves are a couple $1 million in. The town is not really any money in besides maybe staff time in supporting the project. And so what we have decided to do in consultation with CRDA, our legal team, as well as council leadership, is to offer a 90-day extension. You guys remember the mayor does have the ability to offer the extension, but I didn't want to do so unilaterally. I wanted to do it with the support of our council as well as our legal team. This is not something I was looking to do. However, I don't think it's in our best interest to end the project today and to be in litigation with the developer over the next couple of years trying to get this property back. And so we still remain about 95% there. There are a few issues that are on the table that need to be addressed. One includes additional funding for the infrastructure bids that came back higher. Two is the question of if prevailing wage is applied to the entire site. Three is the requirement of a performance bond from CRDA, which I think is necessary. And so we have basically sent them a extension, a 90-day notice, which does not at all commit the town to any additional funding. It does not commit the town to anything. What it does is it encourages the developer to re-engage the town and possibly rethink the path forward. Whether that path forward is bringing in a new developer, whether it is selling the site to a new developer, or downscaling the project to fit within the existing budget. And so that is currently where we are at. We are meeting next Tuesday at 10 a.m. It is all hands on deck for the next 90 days. We will put in as much time as necessary to chart this path forward and to see where we're at the end of the 90 days. So, you know, like I said, this is not, it's not what I was hoping to do. I was hoping we obviously would have shovels in the ground, as I'm sure everybody else would. I would also say that the town has, I would say, gone above and beyond to try to make this work. And now the developer is on the clock for 90 days to come up with a new plan to make this project viable and to make the math work within the existing budget. So, you know, once again, I want to thank you guys for your patience. I know, once again, this is not ideal. I think we can continue to be pro-business while protecting our interests. I just don't think it's the time to end this agreement and then be in litigation for who knows how long to try to get the property back or for the developer to try to get their money back. So I'm happy to take any questions with that update. And I will obviously keep you guys up to date through the next 90 days as much as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Take any questions.
Sure. Questions? Angie?
Not a question, but, well, I have a question about something else, but maybe later. I would definitely be in favor of scaling down the project before I would be interested in entertaining any cutting of the prevailing wage. It's a no-go for me.
Yeah, and with prevailing wage, we have to work with DOL to see what their opinion is on it, right? And if indeed it is determined. So, yeah, we're kind of awaiting an answer from the Department of Labor. But totally understood.
Okay. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, on Noble Gas Station. Yep. Yeah, with DOT, are they going to redo that intersection just past that? Is that in the plans, or is that?
So let me get an update. Yep, I did see plans. I just don't have a construction timeline.
Okay.
And so it's going to be very similar to, what do I say, exit 43 off of 84 going into West Hartford.
Right.
You can go north or south, east or west, or north, south onto the highway.
Okay.
Yep.
And
so,
last, the roundabouts, you said Burnside, and what was the other street that there were?
it was Burnside in Maine and Picken in Maine.
Pickett, okay, Pickett, okay, all right.
And then the one that for sure is coming in 2027 is Chester, Forbes, and Robert Street.
Okay, it was Pickett Street. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Concourse Park update, obviously very disappointing.
Yep.
You know, where are we on the fines that were waived? Is that still part of the agreement, or how does that?
So I didn't issue a fine this time. The last time I did, or last two times I did, because I think we gave a total of 3 extensions, 1 under Mayor Mike, I believe 2 under me. And so I believe one of my extensions was a full fine, and the last was a half fine. But I did not issue a fine this time around.
And so 90 days, and then we will have to decide what to do.
So I think 90 days, right? I'm hoping we're at a really solid path forward, right? Or a plan that, once again, doesn't commit the town to any additional funding, right? It charts a new path forward within the existing parameters of our development agreement. If I feel we're at a really good place, one, I'm going to likely consult with council before I make any decision, just so that we're all on the same page, because we're all on the same team. And I think if we are all comfortable with the direction, then we would issue another extension to get to shovels in the ground. If not, we would start to have the very hard conversation about terminating the entire agreement and what the path would look like after that, which I don't think would be great for us, for anybody, really, but it's just not a place we want to be in. And I think a lot about Manchester, and I don't mean to call it Manchester, but the Park 8 property, right? They fought for decades, or 10 years, to basically get that property back through litigation. So I want to avoid that as much as possible. I think our greater goal is to get something built, and maybe there's a combination of scaling it down, bringing in a new developer, re-envisioning some portion of the site, to something that works for all parties.
Yeah, I think we've seen with the other development happening in town that developers are willing and able to put forward the financing necessary to get their projects done.
And interested.
Yeah, and interested for sure. And, just clarifying for residents who may be wondering about the whole timeline, this was the first major project that we were considering. Showcase had sat there for about 20 years, right? The town took action to get the property, cleared it, worked with this developer. And although we don't have that reverter clause, which hindsight's 2020, would have been great, one of the protections that we put in, as I recall, is when they closed on the property, they had to have the financing for the project. And so we went through the process of, verifying all of that. And now it's the case that they just apparently need more funding. And as everyone on the council has expressed, we're in a very different place from where we were in 2019 when we came up with the original agreement. So, it's obviously a lot more complicated, right, if you go into the details, but this, I think, is an example of the town, your administration, making sure that we are holding the line on not just giving away everything, because we are so desperate to get a project done. We're in a very different place today.
Right. And to your point, the town does have final say on any new developer that comes in, and per our development agreement, we do have use restrictions on the site that only allow certain things to be built that we felt were in our best interest. So you can't just pop a smoke shop on there or a dollar store. It has to be what we have all been in favor of. So I think we've given ourselves some significant protection. Obviously, I wish we had a reverter clause in there. We weren't able to get that in there. But like I said, I remain hopeful, as I always will. It is a greater goal to get something built there, and I think we can do it. So I think we're very close. I think you're right. It is a matter of funding at this point related to those three issues, or three gaps, I'll call them: infrastructure, prevailing wage, and a performance bond. At the end of the day, it is now the developer's burden to figure out the path forward within 90 days.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just before I ask for any further questions, on the reverter clause, I do believe we have more significant leverage, if you will, if they don't hit certain milestones in 2027. And that's, the deadline that came about was relative to the tax incentive agreement. The purchase and sale and the development agreement, that does have certain things that if they're not getting done, we have the ability to move on. I don't know if it's exactly a reverter clause or not, but I remember seeing some leverage points in 2027. Obviously, we don't want to wait that long. So I think it's a matter of saying, all right, you've got 90 days to essentially get your act together, because otherwise, tax incentive agreement goes away, so does your project.
The project's dead at that point. Yeah, the math no longer works.
Yep. Okay, further questions, Travis?
Thank you for the update. I know that this isn't news anybody was looking forward to hearing. Unfortunately, JASCO since day one has not seemed like they've had the ability to do this project. From their first time coming in front of, council, planning and zoning, all of the rest of this as it was being proposed, they've been asking for, smaller development because they just aren't capable of handling something this size, the financing, the infrastructure, and here we are again dealing with them wanting to scale back. having been around during the Silver Lane redevelopment studies and everything else, the reason that the investment was made is we needed a housing influx into Silver Lane. We're starting to get that naturally now with some of these other developments, but my fear with Jasco scaling this down to something that they're actually able to handle is we've diluted what the intended consequence or the intended effect was, which was getting an influx of higher-level housing into Silver Lane to revitalize the neighborhood, stabilize the retail developments that have continued to slide. So I don't understand why Jasco can't just either walk away from it and realize they're ill-equipped or turn it back over, but the prevailing wage issue, the infrastructure issues, these are all issues that have been known since day one. So for them to keep coming back and requesting more public resource to offset conditions that they have known about since the day that they bid on the RFP request just doesn't sit well with me. I don't like the idea of us taking a prime piece of real estate that is so much infrastructure, so much time and effort has been put into, diluting it down to where it has zero impact on the neighborhood. The only thing that I could recommend from a personal standpoint, having seen the full path this project has taken, is if Jasco wants to develop maybe the small parcel that's on Forbes Street, that's kind of tied into the overall development on a fringe way, but still allow us to incorporate the larger section that borders Silver Lane Plaza and some of the other areas that are already growing and have a lot of interest. Maybe we talk to Jasco about that just so that we can be friends at the end of the day. But I don't understand, well, I don't agree with continuing to delay what seems like it's the inevitable. They've never been capable of doing this project from their own testimony. They're, scaling it down back to 100 or 200 apartments so that it's a very small development on that size of land is just a disservice to our community and what we've been trying to accomplish. So I applaud the 90 days. I think that, a cool down period and kind of see what happens. But just to have development for the sake of development on that parcel, I don't think is a good idea. So, like I said, if we want to allow Jasco to do the small development that they're capable of, maybe we split off the parcel on Forbes.
Yeah, and I think that's an option on the table, is exactly that. I think your intuition is correct. I think many of their other projects that they've built in New Britain have been 150, 200 apartments. We're thinking along those same lines of maybe you're developing a portion of this, and then we're looping in a new developer to do the rest. Or at the end of the day, if it's really a funding issue, then Jasco would have to put up their own money to get us to that budget as well. So that is an option. So I think you're right. I think we all feel very similar to how you're feeling, Councilman, but I think all those options are on the table at this point. We've got 90 days to try to figure it out.
Thank you for your efforts. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, further questions, comments? Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor, great potential news about the grocery store moving into the Walgreens property. Would they just take over the existing building? Is that how that would work?
Yeah, they would buy the building. Yeah, well, they'd buy it or lease it from whoever the owner is, but we don't know yet. So, like I said, they've inquired, they're interested in the property, and they've asked for a meeting with me. So, obviously, I was very excited about it, because I know the community has been asking for some sort of grocery store in that area outside of Aldi's. So, like I said, I don't want to say too much until I've had the meeting with them and I've really shored up the details. So, but could be a combination either. Either they buy it or they lease it from the current owner.
Further questions? Angie?
I haven't checked out the hotel. I've seen pictures online, and I saw comments saying something about Starbucks not being there. Do you know what's going on with that?
Yeah, so I actually, I had a call with Starbucks today to try to encourage them to visit the hotel. I myself did walk in uninvited, but it was open to the public, because I was very curious, and it is absolutely beautiful on the inside. I will say it is, you pulled it off very nicely. So I know, talking with them, they haven't seen the finished product. I think the construction took a little longer than they were expected to meet their timeline to move into that space. However, the broker that I am working with is going to re-engage them Thursday and basically relay my message to them that we'd love to have them in the town of East Hartford, but also encourage them to come visit them site where I think they'd be able to see themselves there. So we're going to try, but unfortunately, yes, they did pull out due to the length of construction, and it didn't match up to their timeline.
Any other questions, comments? And just to follow up on, with regard to the roundabouts on Main Street, what I think would be interesting, to your point of how it might affect side streets, I'd almost argue, and it'd be interesting to hear what DOT would say if a roundabout was on the Connecticut Boulevard and Main Street intersection, would it actually serve to deter or take away the incentive for people to cut through onto Carroll Road? Because now you're no longer going down and facing a long light to get through the intersection. So it'd be interesting just to hear what some of the traffic people would say about that. I know you were not going in that direction, but that might actually serve as again, taking away the incentive to go through if you're just coming down, going through a roundabout and taking a right.
That's an interesting thought, right? Because the roundabouts would essentially be at the end caps of our downtown, right? Mm-hmm. So you can go through Prospect, you're still going to hit a roundabout to leave Main Street. So maybe it would completely deter them from using Prospect or the side streets, because ultimately you're trapped by roundabouts on Main Street. Sounds bad.
See, I don't see roundabouts as a trap. I actually see them.
I don't.
I actually see them. No, I see them as if people are making cut-throughs because they want to avoid the lights, then the roundabout is actually better for them because now they know they don't have to stop. They can just simply go through the roundabout. So therefore, why go through two stop signs and a curve, and then a third stop sign when you get to Main Street, when you can just go down Connecticut Boulevard, hit the rotary, take a right, and go down Main Street.
Right. No, I agree with you. I just have not seen folks love roundabouts as much as they love stoplights here in this town. So, more people hate the roundabouts than they do the red lights. And I agree with you. I'm like, the roundabout, I think, is incredibly easy.
But if you hate, I would argue, but if you hate stoplights, that's why you go through Carroll Road.
No, I agree.
So if you don't have a stoplight there, then you go straight and go through the roundabout.
I would hope so.
That would be my assessment.
It would work out if people did.
Anything we do to save our East Hartford sign, so it doesn't get hit again, well, so I shouldn't have said anything, now I jinxed it, right?
I was going to say, it hasn't been hit for a whole year now.
Yeah.
But definitely suggestions we'll bring back to DOT, and I think, like I said, encourage you to attend the public workshop so that the traffic experts who will be there, our engineers, can hear from you guys directly too.
Good.
No, we're gonna work on scheduling over the next couple of weeks, so sometime in the summer.
All right, thank you.
Rich, do you want to allow for questions? I know.
Yeah, I know. I was just. Come on up. I knew I had you on the back, but I just wanted to make sure there was no more council questions.
Yeah.
Hello?
Good evening.
So, in my opinion, as a person who studied the effects of roundabouts, and even though roundabouts are more of a new thing in America, they help slow down drivers, which is a main point that you all are making, but they also help with accidents. And you can check in the town of Carmel, Indiana. They put a lot of their intersections as roundabouts, and now, if you check how much crashes they have, if I recall correctly, the percentage of crashes in intersections went down 80%. Do not quote me on that, of course. But roundabouts on multiple streets will teach drivers how to use it because it's going to become more of a normal thing. As America is starting to develop to traffic norms around the world, is going to start happening more commonly. So it's better that we teach East Hartford drivers to get used to it rather than just shock them when they have to get out to town, because that's what drivers have to go through all the time. Like some roundabouts in Glastonbury, for example, you look aesthetically more pleasing than rather a just blank asphalt that creates more heat on roads. And I also got a question, what about curb extensions on Main Street?
Yep.
Wouldn't those help slow down drivers?
Yeah, so that's absolutely something that they're proposing as well. So they have a number of curb extensions, or I'll call them bump outs, to try to both narrow the lane and also protect parked cars that are going to be parking on Main Street as well. So you're spot on. Those are. Do you work for DOT?
No, actually, I wanna study urbanism in the future.
Good for you.
Awesome.
Good for you.
I was going to say, we have an
And what is the town? Is the town going to be building social housing on the site of the plaza, or what is the town doing?
You mean Silver Lane Plaza?
Yeah.
So Silver Lane Plaza, the idea is to do commercial, restaurant, retail pads up front by the road, and then in the back, some sort of owner-occupied housing. So we haven't explored social housing yet. Doesn't mean it can't be something that is explored. But so back of the site housing, front of the site commercial development.
How about for we add a little bit more density to increase people going to that area? Because if it's just single-family housing, then there'll be less people living in the area than, say, 3-story or 2-story buildings.
So you're proving Councilor Simpson's point in bringing that density to Concourse Park, the old Showcase Cinema site, that was originally proposed, or is still proposed, to be 400-plus units of apartments. And so that's a significant amount of housing right there on that one site. Up front at the plaza, I believe, was another 122 units. But like I said, it was a little more owner-occupied, where, right, you don't have as much as the density. I will say on both Silver Lane and Burnside is where majority of our multifamily or apartment buildings reside. So the idea is to kind of continue with that. So you're absolutely right. That's kind of the goal, or was the goal of this Showcase Cinema project.
And one last question. What about economic connectedness, where we connect more impoverished people to more richer neighborhoods and bring connections?
Not expecting this round of questioning. It's harder than what the council mostly asks me.
It's all good.
Well, I would say, in terms of rich neighborhoods in town, I'm not sure we have some of the richest neighborhoods. I would say we have neighborhoods where you've got bigger homes, right? You've got room to grow, right, and expand your family. I think that's a good question. I think it's something we're going to have to look at with all of our development projects. Some are situated in those neighborhoods, like McCartan School, which is an elementary school right in a single-family home neighborhood. The Our Lady Peace property, which actually did sell to a developer. We're working with the Archdiocese. That is next to O'Connell School, which is one of our, I would say, bigger single-family neighborhoods where we're going to bring single-family housing. And so, the goal with single-family housing is we really want to promote first-time home ownership for residents, right? We want to give them that generational wealth. But we acknowledge that we never want there to be an excuse for why someone can't live in East Hartford.
What about cottage courts? Have we explored cottage courts?
I've never heard of a cottage court.
It's really small housing centered.
Like tiny homes?
Really tiny homes.
Yeah.
Or people, say teenagers getting their first home, or college students moving to Pratt and Whitney.
I think it's all things we should look at. I think you're absolutely right. So. Thank you.
If I could wait, hold that thought. If you can let Jason know your name and address for the minutes, that would be helpful.
Too.
And also we'll make sure that you're on the notification list for the transportation hearing as well. So great, but thank you very much for coming in and sharing your information. All right.
I mean, sweating for a second.
All good.
I don't know what else he was going to ask me.
Yeah. All right.
Great, though. That was good.
With that. Okay. We'll move on to the rest of the agenda. The approval of the minutes. I'll take a motion by Sabrina Wilson-Reed.
I move to approve. Oh, just want to say moved. I move to approve the minutes of June 2nd, 2026, regular meeting minutes.
Thank you. The motion is made. Is there a second? Seconded by Travis. Discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Moving to new business, we have our traditional end of the fiscal year budget transfers and adjustments. And the first is our interdepartmental budget transfers. Purpose of a motion, recognize Don Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the residents here, buckle up. This is going to be a long one. I move to approve the interdepartmental transfers for fiscal year 2025-26, consistent with the transfers listed in a memorandum from Finance Director Melissa McCaw to Mayor Connor S. Martin dated June 4th, 2026, totaling $1,179,000 in transfers within the general fund as follows. General Fund to account number G2200-63230, Corporation Counsel Legal, in the amount of $62,800. G4100-60110, Development Permanent Services, the amount of $127,747. G3800-61461, Finance, Benefits, Medical Reserve Contribution, in the amount of $688,848. G5317-60141, Fire Suppression Overtime, in the amount of $107,205. G2300-63138, Human Resources Contractual Services, in the amount of $80,000. G2100-60110, Mayor's Office Permanent Services, in the amount of $60,000. G8100-67300, Parks and Recreation Golf Subsidy, in the amount of $31,700. G1300-62501, Registrar of Voters Equipment, in the amount of $20,000, for a total of $1,179,000. Now, General Fund from account number G9600-60201, Contingency Reserves, in the amount of $220,000. G95110, -66411, Debt Service Interest, in the amount of $229,000. G9400-60110, Health, Social Services, Permanent Services, in the amount of $58,000. G6100-60121, Inspections and Permits, Temporary Services, in the amount of $30,000. G3300-62349, Information Technology, Computer Software, in the amount of $30,000. G2400-60121, Library Temporary Services, in the amount of $13,000. G5203-60110, Police Permanent Services, in the amount of $355,000. G7700-60110, Public Works, Fleet Services Permanent Services, in the amount of $160,000. G7900-65400, Public Works, Metropolitan Taxes MDC, in the amount of $67,000. G7800-65252, Public Works, Building Maintenance, Electricity, in the amount of $11,000. G1200-60110, Town Clerk Permanent Services, in the amount of $2,000. G2600-60141, Crisis Intervention Overtime, in the amount of $4,000, totaling $1,179,000.
All right, thank you. The motion is made. Is there a second? Second by John. Discussion? Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was fun. So this is the motion that we present every year. As the fiscal year closes, there are always surpluses in some accounts and deficits in other accounts that need to get transferred over to ensure that our budget is in balance. And Melissa is here to talk a little bit about some of the things that are being transferred.
Very good. Good evening. And so thank you so much. The item that is before council today is with respect to year-end budget transfers, where we do have surplus funds in other departments to cover costs that are projected to come in higher than budgeted. So first, of the $1.179 million in additional expenses, the largest transfer requested before council has to address our medical reserve contribution. These are the funds the town provides into our self-insured medical fund for active employees. Self-insured for our public participants means that we do not have an insurance product, if you will. So every year, the town covers the annual cost of our employees' medical expenses. Some years that might be higher than others. So this happens to be a year where we have an increase in our claims trend. We actually have an increase in the severity of the types of diagnoses that our high-cost claimants are experiencing. When it comes to high-cost claimants, we measure that as a claim that is greater than $125,000. And so it's not just volume, but it's how large is the claim. This year we have 3 claims that exceed $1 million. Now, the town does have insurance. We call that stop-loss insurance for high-cost claimants, and that covers any cost greater than $250,000. This year is unique in that we just have a large number of individuals that have claims that meet or exceed that threshold. And so that's the primary driver of the expenses in the medical fund. We are projecting overall claims to come in at $1 million higher than what was projected when I was before you in February. The other areas, I'll note, Corporation Counsel Legal, we do strategically budget legal, recognizing some years will come in higher, some years will come in under. This is a year we've had some higher than expected legal expenses. Within our development office, within permanent services and contractual services, we did have an employee separation payout. That's the primary driver of the increased cost, as well as the partial year funding for a part-time downtown project manager. As we go into fiscal year 27, council did approve funding that position from National Development. And the only other cost drivers in development are related to contractual services, and this will be for some of the ad hoc planning and real estate advisory services that were needed to support the development office in the current fiscal year. Another area where it varies from year to year, and we try to use surpluses in other departments when those costs come in higher than anticipated. Within the transfers of $1.179 million, there is $107,000 to offset the fire projected shortfall. There's a separate item for council action for an additional appropriation. $107,000 of that deficit is requested to be funded through the interdepartmental transfers. Within the Human Resources Department, in the contractual services line item, $80,000 will address some of the recurring contracted services costs. So HR incurs expenses for pre-employment screenings, polygraphs, various labor relations, arbitration and mediation fees, and then some of the assessments for our public safety personnel. Those costs vary from year to year. So if we have a large number of recruitments, those costs will be higher, or if we have a number of labor relations matters that are being addressed. And that is for the $80,000 request. Within the mayor's office, we do request a transfer to cover salary costs that are necessary to meet the workload demands in the mayor's office. We anticipated this shortfall and had reserved a vacancy in the Department of Social Services to cover this expense, and that is requested for transfer in tonight's actions. Within our Parks and Recreation, the town has a golf subsidy, and this covers any cash shortfalls for our municipal golf course. As we know, Troon operates our municipal golf course. It is our asset, and if revenues come in lower than expenses, the town does cover those costs. We have seen progress. I've heard the stories of historically this used to be a deficit of $300,000, so this is a great improvement. This year, the additional funds that are requested is $31,700, and when we reflect what's already appropriated, the total shortfall for the year is approximately $50,000. We do have a 5-year strategic plan for the golf course and a new restaurant partnership, so we're hoping to close that in the years to come. And then finally, for the Registrar of Voters Office, at the last council meeting, there was approval to purchase new voting booths and pocket display stands and we are purchasing half of those items in the current fiscal year and the other half in July. So those are the items that require additional funding. We do have areas of surplus to cover all of the transfers as proposed. Contingency, we budget for contingency precisely for this reason. Our debt service, as we discussed in our budget process, has savings of $229,000 just due to the timing of the next debt issuance and the rate that we're spending capital funds. Within health, $58,000 due to the vacant counseling coordinator position that we referenced in respect to the mayor's office transfer. Inspections and permits, great success story here. All positions, full-time positions are filled. We had a temporary services staffing level funding in that budget in the event that we needed temporary staffing, but the department has filled its positions and is able to keep up with their workload and demands. The IT department also has a temporary staffing line item that they have not been able to fill, along with some savings in computer software and office equipment, and that is $30,000 that's available for transfer. Within the library, there's $13,000 in lower than budgeted expenditures for temporary services. As is consistent with our historical expenses, the police department does have a net savings of $355,000. This is primarily due to full-time positions from vacant positions, net of any overtime cost, and those funds are available to cover deficits elsewhere. Within the Department of Public Works, $238,000 across a number of accounts, including vacancies after covering the attrition savings. We have some savings in utility costs as well in both MDC and electricity. And then two smaller line items, town clerk's office, which is $2,000 due to vacancy savings, and in youth services, $4,000 due to savings in overtime and part-time wages. And that summarizes $1.179 million in transfers requested.
Okay. All right, thank you. Further questions or comments, Don?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Melissa, every year this is hard. A lot of work goes into it. Since we have residents here and residents that may be watching, and we know of some of the high-profile things that have happened in the state, can you just take, briefly a summary of how you ensure at the end of every fiscal year that the numbers are correct, and ensure that there isn't too much power given to any one individual in town government to make purchases that can add up to something that's problematic?
Absolutely. Well, I'll start with the latter, Councilman Bell. A general principle to strong financial management is strong internal controls. And that speaks to the state laws, the local laws, our charter, our ordinance, as well as our policies that create checks and balances. And so we have purchasing ordinance requirements that ensures that we are getting competitive pricing for the goods and services that we purchase, whether it's 3 quotes or putting a service or a project out to bid. We have a purchasing agent that reviews every request that a department makes to enter into a purchase order and to tell a vendor we're going to purchase X vehicles or we're going to have you come in and do a repair and renovation, has to be supported with that documentation to show that they have gotten the best pricing, the most responsible pricing. The charter requires the finance director to audit every payment. So a payment request is supported by a purchase order, so no expenditures are to be authorized without that purchase order. The purchase orders are approved by the purchasing agent, the finance director, and the mayor over $10,000. Mayor, you approve? And so when a payment comes to the finance department for audit, the first thing we're looking for and verifying is, did they have the authorization to proceed? Secondly, must be supported by an invoice. Verification that the goods and services were received has to be signed off on. Who signed off on the payment request? Do they have the signatory authority for the department? So those payment requests are audited. It requires 2 approvers so that there's always a second set of eyes before any payment leaves the town of East Hartford. We are also recently, 2 years or so ago, revised our credit card policy. We do not have P cards here in the town of East Hartford. We have one town credit card. And one of the changes that I made when I came to East Hartford was that you cannot use the credit card if you're not an authorized user. Your department head has to prove that you're an authorized user. You must sign off on the credit card policy. It must be used for business purposes only. And you have to request that in writing and return the card on the same business day. All receipts have to be provided. If you are utilizing the credit card for travel, there's a travel authorization form that's signed off on the department head, by the department head and the mayor. And so when it's time to pay that credit card, we are looking for all that documentation. If there's a violation of the credit card, your use will be suspended. So, you know, we obviously, whenever you see incidents such as what are occurring in the state of Connecticut, it's always a good opportunity to put a fresh set of eyes on the policy and to remind our directors and our staff why we have those rules. And the mayor and I, in his last directors meeting, we went through the entire charter and what is required of us, what's required by law, and our policy to remind directors and to push that messaging down throughout the staff to ensure that they understand why and that they're adhering to it. And I'm actually meeting with all departments and their staff to remind them and help make sure they understand the rules. So the internal controls and adhering to them is what prevents and protects the town, safeguards our assets, and ensures that we can give confidence. And, you know, sometimes that's difficult, right? Following the rules requires work, and it's not always well received, but following the rules also protects us. And so as your finance director, I hold the town accountable to those expectations. As far as being able to manage the budget, we have to live within our resources. And it's not to say that additional costs don't come up. We need to plan for them and to determine how we're going to cover them. We just don't have a blank check. And so we keep an eye on our revenues as projected, as well as on our expenditures on a monthly basis, so that we have a needle as to what we're projecting for the year. Sometimes the mayor and I will ask departments to tighten their belt because we know there are projected deficits in another department. So it really does require consistent forecasting and really just holding the line. We're going to have these surprises. Our goal from a fiscal best practice perspective is when we have these additional costs, we want to be able to cover them to the best of our ability within existing resources to minimize tapping fund balance. And just those are the types of tactics and strategies we use to ensure fiscal success and absolutely wanting to ensure that our community has confidence in the leadership and the management here of the town resources.
Thank you. I know this is already a long motion, and I didn't want to prolong it, but I think this was a good opportunity to talk through some of the things that we do that protect the residents' tax funds. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, thank you for the, I just got a question in this, with all this process. What about our boards and commissions? So I know they got small budgets and stuff, but those are individuals that are just, I want to call regular people, they're not employees. Have they been and are they made aware of these processes as well too, correct?
Absolutely. And when you have a new commission member, I'll bring them in and sit down and do an orientation with them. When expenses are authorized from a commission, typically it's voted on in the minutes. So when they bring that payment request in, they'll support it with the minutes to show that it was approved. There also tend to be a smaller dollar threshold, so it doesn't really hit any purchasing requirements. But we support the members of the commissions, recognizing they don't do this every day, and so we're there to work with them and make it go as smoothly as possible.
And it gets a little easier if a commission has a clerk who's been with the board for a while, who's used to working with finance, or some of our boards and commissions have a staff liaison who's already aware of our purchasing rules and, you know, the inner workings of finance.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on the motion? Travis?
More of a statement of thanks. I know some of the other issues that have happened at the state and town and city levels have been lack of listening to your auditors and your controls method to make sure that you have a tight policy that's actually being followed. So not only your diligence in making sure the policies are followed, but also when we have those yearly audits and those yearly reviews and we make sure that we're following best practices, your diligence to make sure that the town adheres to those as well and starts adopting them going forward, I think is one of the other reasons that we're not in the news like some of the other communities are. So thank you very much. That's a testimony to your leadership and your skills. So
Thank you. I always say I welcome the auditors, and I want a report card. So, it's what we do every day that achieves that result, but I do take great pride in that final outcome.
Thank you. It's, quite frankly, a matter of culture, and expectations, and that doesn't always apply in perhaps other situations that we have seen. That's important. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Just one quick one on the additional appropriation for our medical reserve. You had mentioned that it's about, the projections are about $1 million more than what you were projecting for this year, back in February. Are any of those, and I know we, as part of the budget for the fiscal year that starts in July, we increased the contribution to that reserve fund. Are any of these sort of high-cost cases ones where that expense is going to continue, or are these sort of one-off, major surgery type things?
Unfortunately, the three very high-cost claimants are conditions that are likely to continue.
Okay.
So that was the reason to request to shore up the fund this year. When I was before you in February, we projected we would close with approximately $10.1 million. Absent this $700,000, it would be, it would be rather low. And when we were closing fiscal 27, it was projected that we would be at $5.2 million, and that's exactly the 2-month cash reserve. So we'll have to keep our eye on the extent of these claims and whether they're as high as they are this year. It does also impact the stop-loss insurance, so now we have experience that's negative, and that's going to be, it's in the 5-year trend, so that insurance cost is going up next year. The amount of that increase is higher than I had anticipated and that the broker had anticipated. We just learned of that last month. So it is possible that next year we will need to make an additional contribution into the fund as well. When you think about the insurance cost, along with the fact that these high-cost claimants, at least the 3 largest, will continue. Now, who knows if we're going to have the volume we've had for this year? But my initial gut, Chairman, is that an additional contribution will be necessary in fiscal year 27 as well.
Well, it is just one reason why leaving the additional state funds that they have provided to us in abeyance for next year makes a lot of sense, because this is exactly the types of things that happen, and if we incorporated it into the budget as ongoing expenses, not only would we end up with a problem come June 30th of 2028, but we would, 2027, we would then, we would also then not have it available should we need it. So, yeah.
If I can flag, while it's not reflected in this report, the Workers' Compensation Fund also is incurring about a $600,000 shortfall, another high-cost claimant. It's a Board of Ed employee, so the board is contributing an additional $600,000 in the current fiscal year, so that is not in this package. So those are the 2 areas for insured funds that are on my radar screen as we go into fiscal year 27, workers' comp and medical.
And those are ones that can dramatically swing.
Yes.
And so we need to really be continuing to budget conservatively as we have our ongoing expenses, and recognize that all of these are, costs that are not, well, they're not salaries, they're costs that we pay for the staff that we have for things that are unfortunately happening to them, but it's still an expense that needs to be sort of folded into the overall costs that we cover for our employees. So thank you. Any other comments If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Before we get into the next motion, Melissa, did you want to just sort of give you the broader update, and then we can get into the transfer?
Okay. So the original budget for fiscal year '26, as adopted by council, totaled $225.5 million. Per ordinance 10-52, based on excess fund balance, we had an additional OPEB appropriation of $2,074,153. For the members of the public that are here, our OPEB is our other post-employment benefits fund. It's essentially retiree health. And so we are slowly building up the reserves in that fund to cover these commitments we've made to our retirees. After making that adjustment per ordinance, our revised fiscal year '26 budget is $227.6 million. As we look to our revenues, we've had a good year with respect to revenues. Our property tax collections are coming in favorable to the tune of $1.6 million. I will note we have one remaining appeal from the 2021 grand list, and so some of the surplus here is because that appeal has not yet been resolved. It is likely proceeding to trial. So we will have multiple, depending on the outcome of that, we'll address the impact of that in fiscal year '27. Licenses and permits, another area that varies from year to year. Sometimes we meet the budget, sometimes we do not, just depending on the types of building permits that are taken out in a given year. But this is a good year. Our revenues are coming in approximately $532,000 higher than budget. Within our intergovernmental or our state aid, our distressed municipalities grant and our ECS came in a little bit higher than budget by $344,000. You recall the distressed municipalities grant covers some of the tax loss for some of the development properties that might be under an arrangement. So, for example, national development in the enterprise zone is a part of that. Our town clerk conveyance and recordings. So this is primarily the conveyance tax revenue, which is a percentage of every sale of a property. A portion goes to the state, a portion goes to the local municipality. We had a good year, $6,000 greater than budget. I will note one of the large contributors was the Walmart sale, right? So that was a large one. And some years we come in under budget. This happened to be a year where we did really well. And then we're looking pretty good with our public safety collections, police private duty, strong also collections in our paramedic billing. And so those are the areas of, I call that favorability, where revenues are coming in higher. And then that is offset by a projected shortfall in miscellaneous income. Miscellaneous income is primarily, we do budget for a sale of property every year. That does not happen every year. And general miscellaneous income. This is an area we've been slowly bringing down in the budget because we know that the trend is not that we have that level of miscellaneous income. We also have short-term investment income in this line item. We're meeting that budget. We'll slightly exceed it. But mostly the miscellaneous income is just being a little bit over budgeted from the get-go. So the net is revenues being favorable, $2.9 million. And then on the expense side, while the supplemental OPEB appropriation is not a deficit, remember, the mechanism for funding it is if you have excess revenues, it's first going to use the excess revenues. If you don't, then it will draw down on fund balance. So the way to look at it is, of the $2.9 million in revenues greater than the original budget of $225 million, $2 million of that is really covering the OPEB supplemental, which is a good outcome because it means we don't have to draw fund balance in order to make that contribution. And then the remainder is the additional appropriation for fire department overtime in the amount of $657,000. That's in addition to $107,000 that was reflected in the transfers. So if you, overall, net unfavorable, so expenses coming in higher by $2.7 million, and revenues coming in net favorable by $2.9 million. So right now, projecting to close with a small surplus. It's probably one of the tightest years I've seen. Sometimes as we close the year, which is between now and October, a little bit more surpluses might shake out if departments don't spend what they've entirely projected. But right now, we're essentially almost at balance. We're a little over balance. what does that mean in terms of our fund balance? Just a reminder, we closed June 30th, 25 with our fund balance, or this is our reserves, or our rainy day fund for the public, at $26.3 million, with the favorable revenue of $2.9 million, which is offset by the OPEB appropriation of $2 million and the fire department additional overtime appropriation of $658,000. Overall, we would have a projected unassigned fund balance of approximately $26.5 million. So we could see fund balance go up a little bit. That is the goal. I'd like to see that fund balance grow by some amount every year. I do think it will as we close the year. And so as a percentage of budget, fund balance is projected to close at 11.76%, but we want to see that continue to increase between now and year end.
Okay, thank you. Before we get to a motion, is there any questions on the overview? Seeing, go ahead, Travis.
Just a quick question, because I know fire overtime tends to be a higher amount. We've been trying to fight our way through the hiring trends and staggering things out. How are we doing on that front so that we slowly reduce the overtime and actually increase the manpower?
We are making progress. Chief is here. He's going to give an update when we get to the next agenda item, and we'll talk through some more details on that. But what we have continued to forecast, which is that as the positions are filled, we're going to see a stabilizing of the overtime. That's separate and apart from any general wage increases, right? That's naturally going to increase. But we are seeing that the base level is decreasing. And will costs go up? Yes, costs will go up. So I'm pleased at the results that we're going to see here today. We'll talk through them momentarily. And in the budget that was just adopted, you did increase the fire department overtime by another $200,000. So if you look at this projection, it's around $750,000 shortfall, $200,000 additional funded next year. We're probably going to be in the $500,000 mark, and that's what our strategic plan has been, is to slowly increase the overtime. And then Chief is going to speak to, we'll call it the sweet spot, if you will, but when we believe that that's going to normalize, when he's going to hit almost full staffing. So he'll speak to that in the next agenda item.
Thank you.
Okay. Further questions? Melissa, where are we on I got to look it up, but I don't know if you knew offhand, where are we in terms of where we need to be with fund balance? In other words, if fund balance is at, if all projections go according to plan, we'll be at like 1175. Where are we? What's the ordinance require?
Well, we had adjusted the goal to get to 15%.
Correct, yeah, and it was like 0.25% a year.
0.25% per year, yes.
Where, are we over 11 yet?
Well, we're at 11.75%, and that number stays at that level as long as every time we fund the supplemental appropriation, we don't actually have to tap it.
And no, what I meant was,
10.
where are we from the ordinance?
10.75.
Thank you. That's what that was.
I'm sorry. What was
it? It's just because it's a 0.25% every year. I'd have to go back and try to remember what year we started and
that's right.
multiply it out. Okay. Yeah. So if this projects out, then we are in that position where there would be an additional transfer to the OPEB trust fund.
There would still be an additional transfer, and one of the things we could think about is, if you have a really good year, is to escalate,
And we could do that, yeah.
We can do that, but we will still have an OPEB transfer, and we do need that because the projection anticipates there will be some additional contribution each year.
Okay, great, thanks. Any other questions? If not, we'll then have the motion. Don?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to adopt the following resolution, whereas the town of East Hartford has a recurring deficit in fire overtime expenses due to minimum staffing levels, and whereas these expenses have been or will be paid from the town's general fund for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, and whereas, as a result of the aforementioned, it is necessary for the town of East Hartford to set aside additional budget contributions to fund a projected general fund expenditure deficit in fiscal year 2025-26. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the East Hartford Town Council does hereby approve the supplemental budget appropriation by increasing the town's property taxes current year levy in the amount of $657,794 for the purpose of funding a fiscal year 2025-26 deficit as listed below, and does hereby amend the current 2025-26 fiscal year operating budget to reflect the attached supplemental revenue appropriation and expenditure appropriation. G0370-40066, property taxes, current year levy, $657,794. G5317-60141, fire suppression overtime, $657,794.
Thank you. Motion is made. Is there a second? Seconded by John. Discussion, Don?
Not much more for me to say other than just because I read property taxes, current year levy, that does not mean the mill rate is going up.
Yeah. That is absolutely true. So you indicated that the fire chief has been sitting here patiently.
Sitting there. I'm going to tee
to
it up and then I'll...
explain his overtime
Yeah,
situation one more time.
I'll tee it up, Chief, and then I'll turn it over to you. So the total projected deficit for fire OT is $765,000, and this additional appropriation would cover $657,000 of that. Across all the divisions, the projected overtime is about $1.5 million, but that is offset by over $700,000 in vacancy savings and attrition savings. So that's how we get to the net $765,000. And if we just look at fire suppression alone, the projected overtime is $3.652 million. And I just want to remind us of the history. Let's just take a walk down memory lane. In fiscal 22, suppression overtime totaled $2.8 million. In 2023, $2.9 million. In 2024, $3.5 million. In fiscal 25, $3.6 million, and in fiscal 26, $3.65 million. So even with wage increases, we are essentially flat. So that really speaks to the filling of the vacancies and what Chief's doing to manage overtime. So with that, turn over to you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, thank you, Director McCaw. You know, okay, we could take a walk down history lane if we'd like. In 2022, I got a stern talking to relative to where we had gotten to, and this council set me on a path to try to fix that. So a couple of the things that we did was we got really aggressive with our onboarding strategies. We took a look at a bunch of different pathways, and those have been markedly successful. At the peak of our vacancies, so we staff 116 suppression personnel. At the peak of our vacancies, we were at 26 vacancies. So now if you figure that out by percentage, that's a massive part of the department that was missing. And that happened all within about a 24-month window. So onboarding in 2022, 23, 24, 25 is different than it was in 1998. The training is different, the hours are different, how we train people is different, the credentialing is different, what paramedics need to know is different. So we can't onboard people at the same clip we did in 1994 as we did today. And so what we see is we can average comfortably about 6 to 8 people a year. We have the capacity to stand up about 6 to 8 people per year. We were retiring upwards of 15 to 18 a year. So you could see how we were running a pretty good net deficit. When I first started in front of you, one of the things that I promised you I would do is get better data for the council, for the mayor's office, for finance, and we onboarded a scheduling software which does two things and certainly would make Director McCaw happy. We have a digital fingerprint of every hour of overtime, how it's spent, why it's spent, who approved it. So we can now categorically look at the buckets and see where it's being spent, and we're able to now prove that about 29% of our overtime from 2 years ago was just because of empty seats. That number's dropped to 26 to 23, and I'm hoping by next year we're under 20%. As we stand today, we're currently at 14 vacant positions. That's down from 17 at this time last year. If everything goes to plan, we're in the next 2 years of onboarding almost twice as many people as will retire. So by this time next year, I'm hoping to be in front of you, and Director McCaw talked about the sweet spot. I think about 8 vacancies gets us to our level number. And I've always said that at today's numbers, I think that's somewhere between 2.8 and 2.9 million. And that's just because of paid time off. That's just sick, vacation, education leave, comp time. Those are all the things that people get no matter what. So we staff based on the risk. I know we talk about minimum staffing numbers, but we really staff based on the risk. And to turn a fire department out that does about 100 working fires a year and 11,000 responses, you know, we staff the right number for the risk that we face every day. So I think we're on a good path. I have a little bit of a more rosy number relative to what I think we're going to end the year at. I think it's going to be flat, even flat, but, you know, we'll see how that plays out. And that was with a 2.5% general wage increase. So we essentially did that, and if we look at our total overtime hours from fiscal 26 to fiscal 25 to fiscal 26, we're down 9% in total hours. So we're spending less hours, but because of the general wage increase, it essentially stayed flat. So I also like the trajectory we're on, and I think between fiscal 27 and fiscal 28, I hope to not be up here in front of you again in June.
I would want to say, and we hope so too, but we don't want to make it sound so terrible, but that you have to come here.
My job. It's what I'm here for.
Appreciate it. No, that is very helpful. Questions with regard to where we are on fire overtime? A couple of points. One is that I think the fact that just to remind council members that we got into this situation because we had a bubble of firefighters who were retiring all at the same time because they were all hired at the same time, and so that it sounds like we're at the end of that bubble. That's why we're now going to be able to onboard more than we anticipate retiring.
That is correct.
So,
and we were also on the tail end of COVID, which didn't help. This started right at the back end of COVID, and I think it not forced, but some people left that otherwise might not have, based on, you know, whatever situation they had. And it was a stressful time for first responders, no doubt, during that period. So I think that kind of exacerbated it as well.
Okay. So hopefully that will work, and we chip away at that proportion or percentage of the overtime that is associated with essentially being short-staffed. I know one time when we visited this whole issue many years ago, the question was if you took a look at, for example, a $3 million in overtime, and a portion of that is because of people taking their time off, you know, sick time or vacation time. One of the questions was whether we staffed higher than the minimum amount, right? So you always had someone on board who could cover without needing to bring somebody in under overtime. And how much overtime would that save versus the cost of a new employee plus all the fringe benefits and things of that nature? And I don't know whether that makes any sense at all. Is that something that you looked at? Or
Yes.
have you not got that far yet? 'Cause
No.
you got to the vacancy shift.
We're close to being able to answer that question with data. Anecdotally, it feels, and Director McCaw may speak differently to this, but I think that when we talk about the personnel costs related to training someone, equipping them, putting them through school, and then their time off, it's probably marginally cheaper to simply pay the overtime than it is to pay for the entire person. But we don't have the data yet to map that out. That's something that we finally have, that we can actually say, how much is it for vacation? How much is it for sick? Compared to what a full-time employee would look like in that same seat. So don't have a good answer for you yet, but I will.
Yeah, and that's fine. The critical, thing was really to try to get you right-sized, and
Yes.
then you can figure out that, because it is complicated, because a person bringing in a person at overtime, that does have other ramifications with regard to, pensions and things of that nature. So, it's all sort of calculating out of those things. So it's not the easiest calculation to make, but it is something which I think we could do. And I don't have any anticipation of what would be the best answer. I'd love to see the data on it, though.
And I think fire chiefs across the country are trying to answer that exact same question, and probably police chiefs too.
Good. All right. Well, we'll have that conversation then.
Yes, we will.
Hey, thank you. Any other questions? If not, any other broad questions on the motion? And if not, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. All right.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to approval of the sale of the tax liens. And purpose of motion, I recognize Angie Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the sale of tax liens as listed on the report attached to a memorandum dated June 16th, 2026, from Chief Administrative Officer and Director of Finance Melissa McCaw to Mayor Connor S. Martin, which lists and enumerates 36 properties along with the amount of the tax lien for each property and the high bid for each property resulting from the request for proposal relevant to the tax lien sale, and to award the high bid for the 36 properties collectively totaling $576,191 as follows. RTLF-CT LLC, 8 bids totaling $150,669. Tower Capital Management LLC, 28 bids totaling $425,522.
Thank you. The motion is made. Is there a second? Seconded by Travis. Discussion. Angie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Each year, the town attempts to collect delinquent taxes, and if we cannot do so, we may choose to sell the liens to a third party through a bid process. When these new lien holders buy the liens, the town gets our revenue, and the new lien holder becomes the payee for the taxes. Before the liens are sold, the town tries everything it possibly can to collect the delinquent taxes before selling them to a lien holder, and there are concrete steps that must be taken as part of this process. The town council has already approved the sale of the liens, and after that, folks received a letter informing them that we intended to sell their lien. They've had until now to settle up with us, so the time has come to actually sell the liens to the companies mentioned in the motion, both of which I think have previously bought liens from us. Since we approved the lien sales, many folks have settled up with us or entered into a payment plan. The list decreased from 142 properties to 36, and the lien for the 50 mobile homes did not receive any bidders. It is important that we collect taxes owed, not just because our budget depends on it, but also it's only fair to the rest of us who pay our fair share.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion or questions? If yes, go ahead, Travis.
Just a quick one on the mobile home sales, because we constantly struggle with that. How are we doing with looking at finding some teeth to the repercussions for owners that aren't paying their taxes, or the parks that are subsequently taking these properties, tearing them down, and then putting a brand-new home on it and selling it again?
So the tax collector, Christy Hafner, and I met with one of the leading attorneys across Connecticut that many municipalities used to talk through what available remedies we have under statute. It's extremely limiting. The land obviously is owned by the mobile home park, and then you have the property. So there's not a lot of teeth in the law with respect to taking, like the ability to foreclose and things of that nature. So we tasked the lawyer to write a legal memo. We'll be able to talk with you about that in further detail. The initial reaction was that municipalities have struggled, and there were not a lot of other significant revenues to address this. So the one tactic that we're taking, as I have told you before, is we've changed from kind of like the standard collection agency model to a law office that takes a very different approach. One, you're going to receive a letter from a law office, but they then do the reach out and they really talk them through the law and their obligations in a way that a standard tax collection agency just doesn't have the capacity to do. So I can't give you great news on what the opportunities are, but I did request a formal written memo so that we'll be able to talk through the legal analysis behind it.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. That ends our finance piece of the agenda there. So thank you very much. Appreciate, Melissa, all your hard work and all the last-minute changes and updates, because those numbers just keep changing just like the stock market, I guess. But anyway, thank you, and we'll see what the final results for the year are. Moving on to outdoor amusement permit applications, and the first item is axes and axles, which I just have this picture of an ice skater with an axe twirling around. But anyway, for purpose of a motion, which I'm assuming that is not what this is, Purpose of a motion, I recognize Sabrina Wilson-Reed.
Read. Hi, I move to the pursuant to Section 5-3E of East Hartford Code of Ordinances to approve the outdoor amusement permit application for the event entitled Axes and Axles, as submitted by Matt Hawkins, Chief of Police, on June 5th, scheduled for Saturday, June 20th, 2026, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the premises of the Hartford Harley-Davidson, located 221 Governor Street, subject to compliance with adopted codes and regulations of the state of Connecticut, the town of East Hartford, and any other stipulations required by the town of East Hartford or its agencies.
Thank you. The motion is made. Is there a second? Seconded by John. Discussion, Sabrina.
This is Axes and Axles. On June 20th, 2026, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., rain or shine. This is hosted by our very own Hartford Harley-Davidson, located on 221 Governor Street. So this is going to be a really nice event. There will be food there provided by the mobile pub. Alcohol will be provided as well. Axtreme Entertainment will be doing axes, axe throwing provided. So the whole theme between axes and axles, with axles at the beginning with the bikers. So you have an opportunity to get an axe and throw it as well, get some food and drink. So this will be on the 20th of June, coming up really soon this Saturday. Oh, a lot of Juneteenth festivals happening that day. So try to get over there 11 to 3. We'll be having our own Juneteenth festivals coming up that day. So enjoy.
All right, thank you. And just for the record, if it's really an axle on a car, it's A-X-L-E, not E-L. That E-L is actually your axles when you are doing a jump, a spin jump on ice skating, just for the record. So any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. Yes, they do. What's their intention? I don't know. We could always hope. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Bike night. First motion, I recognize Angie Parkinson.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that pursuant to Section 5-3E of the East Hartford Code of Ordinances to approve the outdoor amusement permit application for the event entitled Bike Night, as submitted by Matt Hawkins, Chief of Police, on June 5th, scheduled for Thursday, June 25th, 2026, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. on the premises at Hartford Harley-Davidson, located at 221 Governor Street, subject to compliance with adopted codes and regulations of the state of Connecticut, the town of East Hartford, and any other stipulations required by the town of East Hartford or its agencies.
Thank you. The motion is made. Is there a second? Seconded by Matt. Discussion, Angie.
I think this is pretty similar, but no axe throwing. Bike Night this year features live music by Wild Brood, food from Cousins Maine Lobster and American Smoked Barbecue, and alcohol from the Mobile Pub. Come check it out.
All right. So where's the alcohol come from? What pub?
Mobile Pub.
Oh.
Same as the other one.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know if it's like the food truck pub, yeah.
Must have, but then they have to get
It's not one of those pedal pubs.
Well,
Try that.
yeah, I bet not. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Now on to Hartford Harley Bike Show Luau. Boy, they are doing a lot of creative events, I must say. Purpose of a motion, I recognize. What's the guy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we had 3 events last year, if I don't recall, in May, that were all Harley-Davidson related, so must be the time of year. I move that pursuant to Section 5-3E, Hartford Code of Ordinances, approve the outdoor amusement permit application titled Hartford Harley Bike Show Luau, as submitted by Mac Hawkins, Chief of Police, on June 15th, 2026, scheduled for Saturday, July 11th, 2026, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the premises of Hartford Harley-Davidson, located at 221 Governor Street, subject to compliance with the adopted codes and regulations of the state of Connecticut, the town of East Hartford, and any other stipulations required by the town of East Hartford or its agencies.
Okay, thank you. The motion is made. Second. Travis, discussion. Nobody?
This is one of the many events happening at the Harley-Davidson location on Governor Street, and I encourage everyone to show up, and if not, there'll be another one soon.
Very true. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Finally, Hartford Harley Freedom Fest Bike Night. Wet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I said soon, I did not think the next motion, but pursuant to Section 5-3E, these are recording of ordinances to approve the outdoor amusement permit application for the event entitled Hartford Harley Freedom Fest Bike Night, as submitted by Mac Hawkins, Chief of Police, on June 15th, 2026, scheduled for Thursday, July 16th, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the premises of Hartford Harley-Davidson, located at 221 Governor Street, subject to compliance with the adopted codes and regulations in the state of Connecticut, the town of East Hartford, and any other stipulations required by the town of East Hartford or its agencies.
Okay, thank you. Motion is made. Second. Seconded by John. Discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Similar comments to the last motion. This is one of Harley-Davidson's many events in town, and encourage folks to attend and wish them good weather.
Yeah, I think it's great, and they've been such a great member of our business community that I like the fact that they're doing stuff. It's going to certainly help them business-wise, but it also just helps broadly as well for the community. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, nay, and the motion carries. We have refund of taxes done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve a total refund of taxes in the amount of $5,510.53 pursuant to Section 12-129 of the Connecticut General Statutes.
The motion is made. Second. Seconded by Matt. Discussion done.
We are following the law.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Opportunity for councilors to direct questions of administration, like we haven't been doing that all night. So, any more?
Go in.
I know. It's absolutely true.
As long as he doesn't ask me more questions.
Any other questions? If not, all those, we move on to, council action on executive session matters. We have one with regard to liability claim of James Foreign.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to accept the recommendation of Corporation Counsel to settle the pending general liability claim for James Foreign for a total sum of $20,078.95.
Motion is made. Second. Seconded by John. Discussion done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is actually the first time that we've seen this in quite some time. It relates to a dead oak tree that fell on Mr. Foreign's property from what was town property, and so Mr. Foreign did not sue the town, actually. So we are reaching an amicable settlement to make everything right.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Opportunity for residents to speak. Anyone here wish to speak? Yep, you can either stand or sit, whatever makes you more comfortable.
Yep. I'm here about a property of mine on Stanley Street. That teenagers have put up a basketball hoop right opposite to my property.
Can you say where that property is, sir?
Stanley and Edward Street.
Stanley and Edward, okay.
And this is a temporary basketball hoop, so it's outside his fence, right? So the basketball court now is in the street because they have to stay in the street and throw the ball. And several, attempts telling him, he has to move it, and he doesn't. So I've been to the police and, they came by and nothing happened. I am requesting that somebody really send them a letter telling them they have to move the basketball.
Yeah, I'll follow up with the police chief. So you said it's, Stanley Street and Edward Street,
Mhm.
right at the corner?
My house is right here. I've been there 20 years.
Yep.
And his house, new owner is over here. Right? The street, this is Edward Street.
Yep.
He put up a fence, well, there was a fence by his property. The basketball hoop is outside the fence.
Yeah, in the street. The
In
kids
the
are
street.
playing basketball in the street.
Yeah. And it's very annoying, you know, kids from all over coming there playing. And this constant booming, I can't sit in my living room or my dining room when they're out there.
Gotcha.
So I'm requesting that something, well, just to tell him it has to go, pick it up.
Yeah, I'll follow up with our community service officer division, so we can make contact with the owner and, try to get them to remove it off the street.
His property is 52 Stanley Street.
Okay.
My property is 4648.
4648, Stanley? Okay. All right, I'll definitely follow up with our police department, see what we can do.
Thank you.
Okay, follow up.
Thank you, sir. If you can, just, if you could let Jason know what your name is so that he has it for the record. Thank you. That leaves you, Gary. Heard you had a rather large flag, over the weekend.
Yes, we did. All right, before I get to all the great stuff that's going on, I had a couple of questions. I noticed that some of the new apartments being built in town are 3 stories with no elevator. And as I've been looking on the computer, there's been a lot of states, and even Connecticut, a lot of first responders are talking up at these meetings, and they said, first of all, it's a really bad risk for us to try to get hold of somebody with a heart attack. You can't do CPR on stairs. You gotta go down 3 flights of stairs. Your valuable time that you could be giving to somebody CPR, you can't give it to them on stairs. So that's a high risk. Now, I know that's probably, the building codes probably don't require it, but I think if we could, try to persuade them somehow, who knows, but, I mean, it is a safety item. It really is. So I didn't think about that until I started seeing it all pop up all over the computer, all types of articles. The other thing was, I think you know how I feel about roundabouts.
I heard you love them.
Yeah. Has anybody even, who picked Pitkin Street, Main Street for a roundabout?
So it was in conversation with DOT because of motor vehicle accidents or near misses that we have. So no matter where we put a roundabout, it has to be justified with either pedestrians being hit, motor vehicle accidents, anything like that. So that is why the first one is coming to Chester Forbes and Robert Street, is that intersection, at least per the data we have from the police department, has the most motor vehicle accidents as well as pedestrians being hit, with I believe 1 being killed. So any location has to be justified by that data. We don't just want to plop it anywhere. So Burnside and Main Street, I know that the businesses on the west side of the street have been hit a number of times. Dottie Seamoss, the barber shop that's there where cars actually run into the building. And then on Pitkin in Maine, which I actually take to work every day, I'm probably in a near miss every single day from people who are in the left lane trying to go right onto the highway entrance ramp. So everything is backed by crash data.
So did they pick the location, Pitkin, or did the town say it?
No, so those were 2 of the 4 that we had proposed. The other 2 were at Connecticut Boulevard as well as, Connecticut Boulevard and Main Street and Governor and Main Street, but they eliminated those. So they were just proposing the other 2 at the end caps of Main Street.
I'd just like to remind the town that Pitkin Street has a very large rock with a monument of the first meeting house in town. That will be right in the middle of the roundabout. So you really can't move that because that's a historical landmarker.
Yeah, the design that I've seen doesn't move it at all. The roundabout is next to it. It does preserve the monument as well as the big tree that is there as well.
More to the left.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was my concern about that.
Yep.
I'm not even,
Big boulder.
On the right.
all right, so, yeah, as for the museum, yeah, we had a great weekend. Open house, we had probably over 25 people come. We had a really nice family, 4 of them from Boston. And I said, how did you find out about us? They said, we Googled Open House Connecticut, you came up, we wanted to come see you. So they came down here just for this and went back home. That is pretty good. Of course, Flag Day, being able to hold that 48-star flag out front, I think we had a little over 30 people for it. And Don, you were there for that, thank you for that. That one really nice. Be able to have a World War II vet there too, and getting it on Channel 30 with the interview with Mario was really nice. So he deserves it. We got 2 private events next week. We're going to be closed on Wednesday and Friday for private events. Each one are about 25 or 30 people. So that's really nice. We did just lose, I believe he was the oldest World War II veteran in town, Pat Dillarella. He just passed about a week ago. And he was 102. Next month he'd be 103, and we were working with the family to do a birthday party at the museum. We did one last year for him, so the family was a little shocked, but didn't, 102, and he had some health issues starting up, so we did miss him, and we dedicated the Flag Day event to him, so that was nice. And that's about it. Oh, and we did hit well over 50,000 on Facebook. I think it was like 50,400 and something. So we did hit that 50,000 mark.
Great.
So we'll see if we can get it up higher. That's it. We're doing good. We're getting a lot of people calling, a lot of people coming over, a lot of stuff coming in. So, yeah, it's just growing with the advertisement is doing good, and people are starting to find out about us. That's it.
All right, well, thank you, Gary. Good news as always. Keep it up. Thank you. Connor, any last words?
Because he's not here, I just want to wish Councilor Madison congratulations on the birth of his baby girl.
Yes, indeed. He will, he promises to be back sometime in, I think, July. We'll see. But it's all good. All right, well, with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And John, seconded Don. All those in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Thank you. And our next meeting will be July 14th. We have only one meeting in July, unless we have some issue that comes up, and then we'll call a special meeting. But that's it. Thank you. Have a good rest of the evening.